Welcome to the November 1st, 2017 meeting of the Murfreesboro Planning Commission. We have a quorum present, so I'll call the meeting to order. The first item on tonight's agenda is to approve the minutes of September 20th and October 4th. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, I'll declare them approved as submitted. We have one item under mandatory referrals tonight. That is a mandatory referral to consider an abandonment of and relocation of a portion of a water line easement located at 3300 Siegel Road. Rutherford County Schools is the applicant. Mr. Blomley, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Chairman Lamb and members of the Planning Commission. Yeah, I'm down here. Keeping you all on your toes. No, they drew the short straw this month and got all the big presentations. So I'm down here on Easy Street today.
Okay, good.
At any rate, we have one mandatory referral, and it is with regards to Siegel High School. Back in September, the Planning Commission approved a site plan for an addition on Siegel High School. The addition is proposed to go over an existing water line and water line easement. The Water Resources Department has taken a look at the proposed easement relocation and water line relocation. The school system is proposing to route that line around the new addition. Water Resources Department has endorsed the proposed plan, and the Water Resources Board at its meeting yesterday also recommended approval. So staff would recommend that the Planning Commission also recommend approval of this mandatory referral, and if you vote to recommend approval, we'll take on the application to the City Council for its approval of the mandatory referral request. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? If not, we're ready for a motion.
Make a motion we approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Good job, Matthew.
Thank you. I'm going to go back up to my office now until the end of the meeting.
Move on to our public hearing section. The first public hearing tonight is Annexation Plan of Services and an Annexation Petition for approximately 39.94 acres located along Manson Pike. Kathleen Lowe and Constantine Yvonne Duvalis is the developer. Ms. Green, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Our first public hearing this evening is for you to consider a petition for annexation that's been made by the property's owners of 3 parcels located along Manson Court. This North Manson Court, this Manson Court runs parallel with Manson Pike and is just across the Interstate 84 interchange. You can see that if the 3 parcels were annexed in their entirety, then they would completely surround an area of unincorporated area in Rutherford County, which is the triangle. Therefore, Planning Commission recommended to leave a 10-foot strip along the northern border of the property. So from a technical standpoint, there is not an island of unincorporated area within the city of Murfreesboro. I mentioned that the annexation does include the 3 parcels owned by 3 separate property owners. There are 2 single-family homes located in the property now, or occupied, 2 occupied single-family homes. These properties are within the Murfreesboro's urban growth boundary and are contiguous with current city limits along the south side. A companion zoning change request will be the subject of the next public hearing, but this public hearing is only to consider the annexation that we have studied. If you have taken an opportunity to look at the plan of services, you'll notice that most services will be available immediately upon the effective date of annexation. There are a few services that will not be available upon the effective date of annexation, so the plan of service outlines those. Specifically, sewer is not readily available to the property. It will become available to the property from the property to the north, which is Shelton Square. And the developer of Shelton Square and then the proposed developer for this site are keenly aware of that and working out an agreement, and know that any future development would depend on what's to the north in Shelton Square. Also, the fire department had no concerns with serving the development as proposed because they'll design it to meet our minimum standards, but they did have concerns about the existing single-family homes. If the property were annexed and not redeveloped and people occupied that home, how would they be able to provide services, not just firefighting services, but also first responder services? So in the past, we have taken a similar approach, and we're proposing with this annexation, if you decide to move forward with it, that you condition it, and it's written this way, it should be written this way in the plan of services, either that The homes need to install fire hydrants per the fire department's location requirements, and to make improvements to the driveway, making them wider or hard dustless surface, and prune the vegetation that has overgrown the drives, or that those houses no longer be inhabited, and if people aren't there, there's nobody to make a call. And so the way we would do that is we would postpone second reading at City Council until the property transfers from ownership of these three separate individuals to the developer who has a contract to purchase it. After the developer purchases it, or I don't know if they becomes the owner, then they can, of course, get rid of the homes, and then we can proceed with second reading. I reached out to Mr. Taylor and Mr. Mulchin, who represent the developer, and they said that the developer is comfortable with that approach. So I think we can cover our basis either way. If you have any questions about the plan of services, I'd be glad to answer them for you. Otherwise, you should conduct a public hearing regarding the annexation. After this, I'll give you another presentation regarding the zoning.
Okay. Any questions of the staff? Did you say the developer does not have a talk?
Yeah, they will with the zoning, but not with the annexation.
Nothing. Okay. All right, before I open the public hearing, let me briefly go over how we conduct our public hearings here. I'll open the public hearing and invite anybody to come forward to the microphone. So you'll be given an opportunity for each public hearing to come forward. If you would, when you come to the microphone, please state your name and give your address so we can get it for the record. Make all your comments and questions to the Planning Commission. If you do have questions, the staff will make a note of your questions, and we'll try to answer those at the conclusion of the public hearing. If you don't mind, please keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes, so we'll be sure to let everybody get up and get through their questions that they may have. All that being said, I'll open the first public hearing and ask anybody to come forward that would like to speak. One at a time. Seeing no one come forward, I'll close the public hearing. Questions about the Planning Commission? If there's no questions, we're ready for a motion.
Sounds like you have a plan in place. I'll make a motion that we approve, subject to all staff comments.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item B, the zoning application for approximately 39.94 acres located along Manson Pike to be zoned PUD simultaneous with annexation. Hardiman Grove, Crescent Homes is the developer. Ms. Green.
Thank you. This is the zoning change request, which I alluded to in the previous presentation, and it's for the properties which you just recommended annexation. Those three parcels are identified in orange on the map before you, and the request is to zone these properties PUD simultaneous with annexation. Also included in the zoning change request is a portion of right-of-way, and that portion of right-of-way is shown in the blue color on the map before you. It appears that that's excess right-of-way. We will, of course, study the matter further and have mandatory referral action before we can do anything regarding the disposition of this right-of-way. But they are proposing to develop that, include it in their development plan. Old Manson Pike or Manson Court is no longer serving the same purpose that it used to now that we have Manson Pike and Burnt Knob Road. The request is to zone the property to PUD, that's Planned Unit District, because there's a combination of both residential and commercial uses in the program book. You should have had couriered to you a program book that looks something like this, that outlines the proposed development in detail. I will have the developer's representative to the lectern in just a moment to go through those. And this planned development is called Hardiman Grove. It's similar to a development which was reviewed earlier or in the middle of last year by the developer. So the plan consists of just under 40 acres, and there are 2 commercial lots at the entrance, and then 160 single-family homes within the development. They are small lots, and with the smallest lot being 5,740 square feet. But the way we're calculating lot size here is on the lot width, so you can see in the plan that there are 3 different lot widths. And the homes are primarily masonry products, either brick, stone, or rock, and of course vinyl is allowed for details. The only exception to the similar type zoning is, of course, to the width of the property, And they're proposing to allow a 15-foot setback to the house, but the garage will maintain that 35-foot setback so that you can park 4 cars in the driveway, which is something that's been important to us when considering development plans. They're also proposing to do a little bit wider of a right-of-way. I did include some information regarding the future land use map, which the Planning Commission has adopted. And you can see the future land use map identifies this area as business park. And business park is a type of use, because it's a land use map, that would allow like office type development. Sometimes when you think business park, you think industrial developments, but in our land use map, that's not the type of use they're talking about. So they're talking about office parks. So of course, residential use isn't quite consistent with business park, neither is the commercial use, although maybe it's a little bit more, because the commercial use can provide neighborhood uses. I'm going to invite Mr. Rob Mulchin to the lectern at this time to go through the details of the plan. If you have questions from either of us, we'll be glad to answer them. I did lay a letter out on your desk from somebody who was unable to attend the public hearing, so I told him I'd lay it in your desk. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Good evening, Commissioner Lamb, members of the Commission. Rob Mulchin, SEC, on behalf of my client. Bring to you tonight Hardiman Grove, planned unit development. As you can see on the video monitors here, the site is located just north of Manson Pike and to the east of Blackman Road and to the west of Interstate 840. As you can see, the property is actually pretty much all agricultural property. As Margaret Ann alluded to, there are 2 homes on the existing property today. Zoning, as the property is currently now zoned RM, or medium density residential, in the county. As you can see, there are a number of properties to the east and west that are also zoned as county properties at this time. You have to the north is the PRD, which is part of the Shelton Square project that you approved last year. To the south, you have some neighborhood commercial parcels. Those are neighborhood commercial parcels that are part of the county zoning on that side. So as you get some connectivity, and you also have some commercial elements in and around that intersection. Then off to the southwest, you have the brand new city park that was recently approved a few months back on that side. As Margaret Ann alluded to, for the 2035 land use plan, the current request is for a business park type use. We have deviated from this in regards to the amount of newly proposed residential developments that are in and around this area. We feel it's a much better use in regards to the existing uses that are out there. And as Margaret Ann alluded to, a portion of this development, roughly about 2.5 acres, is going to be a commercial element along Manson Pike. So we feel that we are kind of supplying a little bit of that business type character and more of a commercial element on that side. So we're kind of giving a dual use with this project on that side. Go through a couple slides real quick to give you a little character of what the property looks like right now. This is Manson Court. So you can see Manson Pike up on the right-hand side and on that side. This is a view into the site from Manson Court. This is a view more or less at the entrance to where the community entrance will be in regards to where Manson Court intersects Manson Pike today. This is looking back over towards the overpass going over Interstate 840. Again, this is a view from that, actually looking the other direction back towards Blackman Road. This is the existing Blackman Station. As I had talked about, this is one of the properties that was zoned commercial neighborhood in the county. This is the little gas station service area in the northeast corner of Blackman Road and Manson Pike. And this is looking at Blackman Road from that intersection, and looking south along Blackman Road from the intersection as well. This is one of the existing homes along Blackman Road that backs up to the property. You can see a one-story ranch type style home that's indicative with the other properties there along Blackman Road. We're asking for a planned unit district zoning on this. We're looking at roughly about 40 acres overall. As I said, about 2.5 acres of this overall project is going to be dedicated to a commercial, 2 commercial lots at the entrance to the development. I'll talk a little bit about that here in a little bit. The actual project is going to be roughly going to be all public streets within the development on that side, with sidewalks on both sides, so a very walkable community for the residents, and also connectivity back to the commercial lots and also the Manson Pike on that side. And all utilities will be underground. Looking at 160 single-family detached dwelling units. So you're looking at roughly about 4.36 dwelling units per acre with this development. We're looking at a little more than 5 acres of open space on this. As Margaret talked about, we'll be looking at 3 different unit styles. This is a very similar project. Our client, Crescent Homes, brought forward Kingsbury last year. This is more or less, they've now found another property they feel they want to try to incorporate this product style and a home style and the development style on this property. Looking at a 41-foot is your minimum width lot. You have a 46-foot wide and a 51-foot wide lot on those. So you're looking at the minimum lot size in that 41 is roughly about 5,500 square feet on that. And we'll also have a neighborhood HOA to go along with that. Setbacks, as Mariana talked about, we'll be looking at on the homes themselves. The actual front of the home can be 15 foot off the right-of-way, but the actual garage will be recessed 35 feet so we can get our typical 4 parking spaces between the back sidewalk and the garage space itself on that side, with our typical 5-foot sides, which gives 10-foot separation between structures on that. And then on the rear of the lots, you got 2 different setbacks. On the corner lot, you got your typical 5-foot side setback, which is actually more your rear setback, and then going to a 20-foot rear setback on the internal lots. Residential homes will be 1- and 2-story buildings. Looking at minimum 1,600 square feet living space on the homes themselves. 2-bedroom minimums, so it's more like a 2- or 3-bedroom type style. 2-car front entry garage with decorative garage doors. And we're going to talk a little about building materials. All the elevations will be a masonry type product, whether it be a cement board, brick, or stone, with vinyl only permitted the trim soffit and dormer areas. And these homes will have a covered porch or stoop to enhance the overall streetscape character of the neighborhood. There's a couple of representations of the actual home styles, caricatures of what they anticipate the homes look like. Very good street presence in regards to the architecture. A lot of care has been put into these design, this neighborhood overall. As you can see, with this project, they looked at a number of different elements in regards to the architectural styles and what types of homes and the elements that they'll be around. As you can see, you've got, we looked at the idea of corner, looking at the corner multiple frontage lots in regards to, if you're on the corner lot, really kind of making certain that you dress up both elements, both facade elements in regards to the streetscape on that side. Also looking at terminating view homes that are at the ends of ends of roadways or ends of vistas in regards to the actual visibility and terminating points when you're looking down a street on that side. Then also homes that front onto open spaces and parks. They've taken a lot of account in regards to the design of these homes. A general perspective, caricature of what we envision the streetscape to look like. Amenities, we'll have one main amenity, which is the actual central green, so essentially located to the entire development. So along with the existing sidewalks that will be part of the overall roadway structure on both sides of the street, we'll have very good connectivity back to the central green space. The green space itself, as you can see on the left-hand side image there, you have a very large open lawn space for outdoor recreational space, so kickball, soccer, you name it, football, frisbee, that kind of stuff. We're also incorporating a playground structure. As you can see, these are some of the structures. Looking at using Compan as a very up-and-coming residential equipment maker for outdoor spaces on that. So we're utilizing those equipment components for residential recreational space on that. Looking at decorative mailboxes to help keep the overall community character intact, and also decorative street lighting along the streets. Now we're going to talk about the 2 commercial lots. As I alluded to, there's 2 commercial lots along Manson Pike as you enter into the development. So more or less, these will be more like a neighborhood type, commercial type use. We don't have any immediate users dedicated to this point in time. We're just going ahead and get the zoning out and get the opportunity for our clients to go out and market these 2 commercial lots to potential clients on that side. But we are modeling the uses on the commercial fringe type zoning. So we've gone through, as you can see in your book, we have a list of uses in there that we feel are appropriate uses for these small lots. Definitely more neighborhood and neighborhood style uses on that. And we'll also be looking at the homes being in the actual commercial structures with a building height no greater than 35 feet. We're looking at 30-foot front setbacks, 10-foot side setbacks, and 20-foot rear setbacks in regards to the commercial structures to the roadways and the neighboring adjacent properties. As we talked about, building materials are another important character to this. We're looking at primarily a masonry type use on this. We do have a couple secondary type uses like textured metal or split face block, which will be used in very limited quantities in regards to architectural elements on the buildings themselves. We'll also be incorporating a residential buffer between these two commercial lots and the edge of the residential neighborhood itself. We're looking at utilizing a type C landscape buffer, but we'll be enhancing that with a 6-foot tall PVC fence to any headlights or anything like that that'll be in the parking lots that are associated with these commercial lots to help mitigate that issue in regards to the homes that are directly next door to these commercial lots. Access, we have one main access point at the beginning of the project right off of Manson Pike. And as you can see, here's a design of what we're looking at, anticipating the character feel with a divided median entrance with landscaping on the median and along the sides, with some split rail fence and also a masonry sign with lighting and landscaping at the entrance to kind of make you feel as you're coming home in regards to that on that side too. So, and again, you can see the commercial lots on either side of this entrance on that side, and then at the back of the entrance, once you get past the divided median, you can see the 2 access drives that get to those 2 commercial lots. Our secondary point of ingress egress will be a stub street that will tie into the overall Shelton Square PRD. So as that section is developed out, we'll have another secondary access point into the community over there. We also have a stub street that we're providing for the remnant parcelage that Margaret Ann talked about in regards to the annexation, allowing that access there. So when that property does ever potentially fill out in the future, they do have an access point to a city street on that side. With that, I'd like to be here for any questions, comments now or after the public hearing. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mulchin, on the drawings that you have for us in the book on page 15, just samples of the styles of the homes, would any of those be homes that would be on the 41-foot lots? Or like the bottom left corner, would that be a 41-foot lot?
It could potentially be that, but I don't think that these weren't drawn in regards to, I don't have the reference in regards to what size these would go on, but it's more about the character and style of the homes that we want to portray is what we're going to put on those lots. That one there by itself, I think just based on the fact that you're going to have a 16-foot garage and then you've got roughly about another 10-foot space on there, it's potentially a home that could be on a 41-foot wide lot.
I was just trying to figure out whether it was just in the garage. I guess most of them will end up being extended in front of the front doors, and the front doors will be set back.
Yes, ma'am. And some of the homes will have that character, but we're allowing with the setbacks we're asking for here is to allow for the designers as they go through these on a lot by lot basis to have that opportunity to bring the home out in front of the garage, so the garage element isn't the main focal feature of the architecture.
Okay.
So it's the opposite of what the picture shows, right? The garage would be set back.
Yeah, so that's so if you in allowing what we're asking for in regards to the setbacks and allowing that 15-foot front setback for the building itself, it allows the opportunity as they go through these to go ahead and manipulate that garage to set it back, recess it back, so that you actually bring that architectural character of the home out front and put the garage as a secondary feature on that side.
It allows it, but doesn't require it. So these could be what's built.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mulchan, on the western side of the property, where the homes are that are on Blackman Road, there's a tree line. It appears that most of the trees are actually on the residential properties, according to the way the line's drawn on one of our printouts here. But if there are trees on your property, are you going to try and preserve those on the property line?
That is the intent for this development. We are actually, I didn't speak about it in regards to the project itself, but we are actually incorporating a 10-foot open space all the way around the perimeter of the property. So between the actual rear of the individual lots and the actual boundary of the property, there's going to be a HOA-maintained landscape strip along the backside of that. So the intent is to do our best when we do the design and grading of the project is to go ahead and incorporate trying to save those trees as best as possible as we can as we go through the design stage. And then utilizing that extra 10 foot will help create a little bit of some, green space kind of, transitional element between the backs of the homes and the actual residences along Blackman Road. And the same goes for those homes that will be built in Shelton Square to the north.
And this isn't a question that I'm going to hold you to, but can you give me some idea of what the price point is that you're trying to hit with these homes?
I think these were looking more in the mid to high twos, going in low threes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Mulchamp.
Thank you.
We may need you back up later. Okay, at this time, I'll open the public hearing and ask anybody to come forward that'd like to speak.
I'd like to make apologies for my voice to begin with, Chairman Lamb. Gary Jernigan, and I'm representing Ms. Taylor, who is the single property left at the end of Manson Court. I have a couple of questions for clarification. The two commercial pads, would they be where the retention pond is currently? Okay. And that's also where you're going to achieve your point of ingress and egress?
I believe it's to the east of that.
Okay, we really, you need to ask your questions to the Planning Commission. We'll try to get them answered at the end,
Okay,
sir.
but that's the man that
Yes,
can
sir.
clarify, and I apologize. And my other concern is Manson Court coming out now. It's a death trap with all the traffic. It's almost another Asbury Road for the couple of people who live along it, certain times of day especially. I do help look after the lady at the end of the street. And like I said, I'm not against these people. I know more about that property than we'll get into here tonight. Like I say, great people, great families. So I'm not against the development, just looking for some clarification on those issues.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody else? Nobody?
Tammy Sandlin. I live off of Blackman Road. I have a question about the commercial two pieces of property. Would those be type businesses like a dry cleaners, gas station, more of type of commercial properties like the properties that are down at the light of Florence, like the subway and things like that? Is that kind of more what we're talking about? And as a resident in that area for 22 years, I'm very concerned with the property that's happening in front of our subdivision in Blackman Road with the Shelton property, and then this property, and then the property that you'll hear later that's coming off Florence, that we are not going to have enough safety happening on our streets there with no red lights, not enough red lights, and all the traffic that's going to come from all these three big, huge developments.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? Okay, seeing no one come forward, I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Mulchamp, do you want to address some of those questions for the record?
Regards to the questions in regards to the commercial on detention, the what's out there kind of functions like a detention pond, but it wasn't constructed as a detention pond. We believe that at the point in time when Manson Pike came through, the grading that was associated with that roadway infrastructure being dropped in there more or less created a bowling effect in that location over there. So it kind of still it holds water as if it's like a detention facility, but it was never constructed or to be maintained as a detention facility over there. So as part of this project, we'll be definitely looking at detention in regards to the overall property, whether it be commercial or residential with this development, and ascertaining what's the best locations for these detention areas on the site, and also looking at the opportunity to, when we put these commercial pads in, making certain that we, mitigate any of the stormwater issues that may or may not be out there currently, or that'll be, coming down with the project itself on that side. So that's what it's not really was ever really truly designed, as far as we understand it, as a detention facility. Regards to traffic at Manson Court, I think we looked at it from the standpoint, we haven't done a true vision standpoint, but it looks like, when you stand at the intersection, I can understand some of the issues in regards to the amount of traffic that's on Manson Pike right now, coming over the overpass and coming down. But I think, as you can see in that image that I showed, that you have a pretty good line of sight and visibility coming, from the traffic coming over the interstate, and also coming around the curve from Blackman over there. It's definitely, I think we got some good visibility triangles and the visibility, regards to vertical curves and such on that side. They actually have some good visibility coming off at that intersection there. Regards to the commercial use question, it's kind of as it's outlined inside their pattern book in regards to the types of uses that we're looking at, and I can run through a couple real quick on that side. We're looking at churches, daycares, pet facility, animal care facilities, that kind of stuff on that side. It's a lot of the uses. They're looking at a coffee shop. These are going to be small type uses. These pads really aren't going to be that large that you're going to have a big user on that side of things. Not to say a Subway or something like that, as she asked about, could go on potentially on that side as well. But we've outlined the uses we feel that are good uses in regards to the small nature, the small, neighborhood character that we're looking to achieve as an entryway to this overall residential development, and providing those opportunities for not just these residents, but also the existing residents that live out there and the residents that are coming down, as we expanded our city limits out this way on this side.
Chairman Lamb, I didn't understand her name. I think she said Jenny Sandlin. Can I give her the sheet out of my program book that has the uses? Okay. This, if you want to come up, I can give this to you. It has the uses permitted. And of course, as a plan commission can add to or remove any of those that you might see fit. Also, I did hear that Manson Court was a death trap, and none of these homes will have access to Manson Court. They'll have access to Manson Pike. I know they're both called Manson, so it can be confusing. So all these homes, they're being directed to Manson Pike, which is a street that was built by the city, and it has different standards than, of course, Manson Court, which would be a substandard street.
And it'll have connection to the north as well into.
They will. They'll have cross access north into Shelton Springs, and then the Triangle property that's in the unincorporated area could have future access to this public right-of-way as well. And there are illustrations of the outline on page 16.
Mr. Molechamp, anything else?
That's it, sir.
Okay, any other questions from Mr. Molechamp while he's here?
I have one, and it may not be from Mr. Mulchan. Margaret, and you might can, as many times as I've seen this, I should be able to answer my own question, but there's one of the uses says commercial center. What, is there a definition for that?
Yeah, there is a definition, and it's basically one of those small retail centers, so 25,000 square feet or less, the smallest type shopping or retail center that we have. And so that's the ones where you typically see maybe 4 suites in there that are about 1,000 or 1,500 square feet each. So it's the smallest size.
Okay.
That we have.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, any other questions or comments from the Planning Commission?
Mr. Chairman, if there are no other questions, I would make a motion for approval, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Item C is an annexation plan of services, annexation petition for approximately 37.15 acres located along Florence Road. Fortress Builders is the applicant. Mr. Anthony, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Thank you. Fortress Builders, Inc. has requested annexation of a 37.15 acre tract located along the west side of Florence Road, about a half-mile south of the intersection of Florence Road and Old Nashville Highway. This is for one entire parcel of just under 1 acre, and then a 36.3 acre portion of a larger 44 acre parcel. The remainder of that larger parcel was annexed into the city about a decade ago as part of the Home Place subdivision. The property is contiguous with the city on the north, south, and east. We would have to include a 10-foot strip along the eastern and northern boundaries of the annexation area in order to prevent the property in white on the south from being completely enclosed by the city limits. The plan of services indicates that the city can provide services upon annexation. A companion rezoning request will be the next item on the agenda. Staff can answer any questions that you may have. You should hold a public hearing and then formulate a recommendation for the city council. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? This is for the annexation plan of services and annexation petition. I'll open the public hearing at this time. Ask anybody to come forward. Okay. Seeing no one come forward, I'll close. Oh, excuse me. Almost missed the bus.
My name is Tom Murray. I live at 3708 Florence Road, which is right across the street from this. And I don't know if this is the proper hearing to talk about. Don't put all those people in here. There's nothing like getting up in the morning, sitting on your porch and looking across and seeing the deer. I mean, it's rural, but yet it's not. There's subdivisions on this side of us, subdivisions on that side of us. And I just pray you guys don't do it. I mean, I don't know what else to say. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Any questions from the Planning Commission? If not, we're ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the annexation.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
And plan of services,
And the plan of services,
Plan of
yes.
services.
Thank you.
all that stuff.
All opposed? Motion carries. Move on to item D, a zoning application for approximately 44.34 acres located along Florence Road to be zoned PRD, which is 35.55 acres, and RSA Type 2, 8.79 acres, simultaneous with annexation. Wynwoods PRD is the development. Fortress Builders Incorporated is the applicant. Mr. Anthony.
Thank you, sir. Fortress Builders has requested rezoning for a 44.34 acres located along the west side of Florence Road. On the map, the colors quite aren't matching what I had in my head, so we'll try to walk through it. The portions that are colored purple and blue, on those portions, the applicant has requested rezoning. That's about 35.5 acres, rezoning to PRD for those portions of the property. The proposed PRD would permit 107 single-family residences. Going back to the map, let's see. I do apologize, as this map is a little confusing. It's confusing to me, and I've looked at it 100 times. On the southern portion, you will see property that is proposed to be rezoned RSA Type 2. This is our suburban townhome zoning. It's a relatively new zoning that was just approved by the City Council earlier this year. That's about a little under 9 acres of the property. And then you will see one more property in yellow. This is just under an acre. There's an existing house here. There is no rezoning proposed for that particular portion of this property. So that would default to RS15 upon annexation. Murfreesboro 2035 indicates that auto-urban residential with a density of 3.54 to 8.64 units per acre is appropriate for this area. The maximum density, as we calculated it, that could be achieved with this rezoning is about 6.68 units per acre, which does fall within Murfreesboro 2035's recommended limits. Rob Mulchan from SEC is here representing the applicant and can talk more about the PRD portion of the rezoning request. Staff can answer any questions that you may have. We would ask that you hold a public hearing and then make a recommendation to the City Council. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mulchan.
Good evening.
Didn't go far enough.
Good evening, Chair and Land members, Planning Commission, Rob Mulchan, SEC. I'm here tonight on behalf of Fortress Builders to present to you Wynwoods. Here's an aerial of the existing property today. As you can see, a vast majority of this property is actually farmland, agricultural land that's used for cultivation of hay, and also there's a larger portion in the northwest corner that is a very densely wooded portion of the property on that side. The property is actually along the western side of Florence Road, as you can see in the aerial there itself. As Don alluded to, we do have a kind of a congregation of different types of zonings that are going on with this property. The majority of the property is currently zoned RM, medium density residential within the county. To the southern portion of this property, there's a portion that's RS10. As you can see, the adjacent properties to the south, you see the large PUD area. That's part of the Home Place PUD that was approved many years ago. And then you've also got the PRD for Seaward Crossing to the north of the project, and then a couple RS10, RS12 residential subdivisions to the east of Florence Road. The 2035 plan calls for an auto accentuated type of use. As Donald talked about, our uses and our density for the project itself are in line with this type of use, so we are staying with the land use as planned by the 2035 plan. A couple of views real quick of the property itself. This is looking in from Florence Road on one of the fields that is freshly cut hay. This is a view of Florence Road. As you can see, it is currently built out through a 3-lane cross section with curb and gutter and sidewalks. This is looking south, and a view back towards the north. I'll give you a couple of character ideas of some of the homes that are in the area. This is the homes immediately adjacent to the north side of this property. This is in Seward Crossing. And you see mainly a mixture of brick and masonry type products along with vinyl siding. And these are the homes directly across the street on the other side of Florence Road, a mixture of brick and vinyl as well. And these are a couple of the RS10, RS12 residential subdivisions off of Florence Road. You can see it's a mixture of hardy material, brick, and vinyl. This request is for a planned residential zoning. We were asking for 2 different types of zoning classifications with this, but the main one is the PRD is for a single-family detached, as you can see the actual lotting on that side. We're also asking for about 9 acres of this to be set aside as a RSA type 2 for townhome development, as you can see in the orange or peach shaded coloring zone on the plan itself. The single-family detached portion will be roughly 107 single-family detached dwelling units. So you're looking at roughly about 3 units to the acre in regards to this portion of the overall development. Minimum lot size will be 8,000 square foot. So you're looking at home lots in the range of 70 foot or greater in width on those lots over there. We're also looking at roughly incorporating over 6 acres of open space, whether that be active, usable open space with the main amenity complex or detention areas located along the property to handle our stormwater management facilities. These will all be public streets with sidewalks on both sides, creating a very walkable community and also connectivity back to the main amenity feature I'll talk about in a little while. We have 2 different types of setbacks in this development. One, because we have 2 different types of housing styles. We'll have a front entry garage style and also a side entry garage style. So I want to kind of give you a little description of the different styles and setbacks that we got going with these types of homes. Front setback, front entry garages, we'll be looking at 35 feet from the back of sidewalk to the face of the garage, with the secondary front or side facing garage entrance off a side street being 25 foot, so that incorporates allowing parking on that as well. Doing about 5 foot on the side setbacks to 10 foot between units, and we're asking for 15 foot on the rear. On the side entry garages, we're looking at those being reduced to a 25 foot front garage. That way the homes are actually coming into a garage that's actually a side loaded garage, so the home and the garage element will be up as close as 25 foot, but there will be no doors facing the roadway. So that's the difference between the front entry garage and the side, is on the front entry you'll have garage doors facing the roadway, whereas these side entry garages, they'll be facing the actual units next door on that side. So we're asking for 25 foot to bring that architecture up. The secondary front will be 25 as well, and then we're looking at 10 foot between structures or 5 foot on either side with a 15 foot rear. The single family detached homes, 2 stories in nature, minimum 1,500 square foot living space, 2 bedrooms or more. The homes will have 2-car front and or side garage loaded units, and then we'll have an enhanced standard garage door to add to the character of the neighborhood. These are some of the examples of the homes that Fortress Builders has built in the past, and we'll be utilizing these types of materials and looks on the homes for this development as well. The homes themselves, all elevations will be comprised of 50% masonry materials, hardy board, brick, or stone, with the other remaining portion being 50% vinyl. We'll also be utilizing vinyl, of course, in the trim, soffit, and dormer areas of the homes themselves. Amenities, we have one main amenity complex you can see is ideally located at the central portion of the development, so that's just centrally located. Again, utilizing the sidewalks along both sides of the streets will allow all the residents to get to and from the amenity center. We're looking at incorporating as you can see in this tighter view on this, looking at a pool cabana with the pool included, and then also a tot lot and an open lawn area for open play on this property. Access. We have one main entrance currently off of Florence Road. As you can see it there in the middle of the development coming off of Florence. We'll incorporate a 3-lane cross-section at that entrance there for a dedicated left and right out of the development and 1 lane in. We're also looking at, coming in the future, as the part of this project has been working with staff in regards to the future major arterial roadway connection between Florence Road back out to I-24 and the future interchange that should be coming in the next 10 years or so, or wherever the time frame is, staff can work out with TDOT in regards to getting that overpass and the interchange involved on that side. So that's one of our secondary. And our more immediate, we'll be incorporating a monument signage at both of those entrances as they progress. And then also looking at our secondary entrance for the short-term future will be our connection to the north to Seward Crossing to allow us to have a secondary access point back out to Florence Road. We'll also be providing a stub off to the west. That will allow us connectivity to the adjacent properties as they develop out and then in the future. Thank you for your time and consideration of this. I'm available for any questions now or after the public hearing.
Any questions, Mr. Molchan? Yes, sir.
So, Rob, on the, I'm just going to get my hands around or my mind around, on the 25-foot setback with respects to the side entry garages, I guess the thought process is we're still accomplishing the same amount of stacking space of cars. The fact that it's a side entry garage, you're still going to be able to stack two cars, front to back and side to side because your driveway's longer. Is that the thought process?
So you'll have 25 foot up to the actual face of the garage or the house structure.
Right. And
then from there you have the actual court where you maneuver your cars in and out. So you'll be able to, we're not regulating the garages to being solely as being ideal just for cars only. So that we're allowing that extra 2 spaces where you would typically pull up in front of the side entry garage.
Okay.
So you're still getting the 4 spaces as if you as a front entry as well.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Molchan, on page 5, you showed the major thoroughfare plan with the road going to the north of the property. I don't think that's correct because there's houses on the north side of the property. And every other drawing that I see in your book has the major thoroughfare plan showing the roadway on the south side of the property.
Yeah, this is actually, the diagram that's on page 5 is actually the diagram from the current major thoroughfare plan. So there's been a deviation from that in regards to what the city's anticipating. The connection point back to Florence is actually shifted south of this project. So we've been working with staff in regards to the overall character of this, this region of the Florence Road connection of this major roadway. So this is actually what's on the currently approved plan. Staff has directed us to look at the opportunity of bringing that roadway down because Seward Crossing is actually where the road actually ends, where the number 5 is on that diagram. Right. Seaward Crossing was approved and has already got two sections fully built out. So that connection to Florence Road has actually moved down south onto the property south of this development.
Gary, are there any concerns with the moving the roadway south and having the curb before the overpass there? Is that all good?
Our traffic engineer says thumbs up, so I think we've already worked it out.
Okay, any other questions?
So is that something, then, do you change that in the plan book, or will the plan book just, because that is the current way that it is, the major thoroughfare plan is now, and so that's the way they have to show it in the plan book? We were just all really confused, I think.
We have not adopted.
Easy to do.
Yet the new transportation plan. I think what they did is picked up the 25-year plan. The 2040 has actually got that relocated, if I'm not mistaken, and we are okay with it. They have been working with us on it. We actually dropped that down to a line, so when we go on the other side of Florence, where we have a clear shot coming through, is what's illustrated on the plan. And I think Mr. Balachandra can address any questions regarding that.
As long as y'all are good with it.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. What was your exact question here? What did you?
About the location of the road, relocating the new 2040 plan.
Yes, it will be amended. The old plan will be amended when we update the 2040 major thoroughfare plan, which you will be seeing. There will be a public hearing coming up in November. That would amend the old 2025 to accommodate an east-west connector, 5-lane connector road that will eventually tie into Cherry Lane.
Can I quickly just point out that you'll see that and have the opportunity to approve it or not approve it, the new major thoroughfare plan, prior to this going to the plan to the city council. I think that's the way the timing would work. So if for some reason you opted not to approve the major thoroughfare plan, we would most likely pull this and await further instruction.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Balachandra? Thank you, Ralph. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll open the public hearing, ask anybody to come forward that'd like to speak.
Hello, my name is Sia Murrah, and I live on 3708 Florence Road. I live right across from this annexation also, and I want to know if the commission has done any kind of planning, traffic planning for Florence Road, and how this will impact, because the traffic is pretty bad. It's getting increasingly bad on Florence Road because of all the development in our area, and I just wondered if they've done any type of looking into how this annexation and city planning will affect the traffic on this road.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else?
My name is Jared Watson. I live at 4230 FE Seward Drive within the Seward Crossing subdivision. So when we got the notification that this was being annexed, I had both excitement and kind of trepidation. One is the original phase 1 of Seward Crossing was 55 homes with 0 green space. The part to the back of Seward Crossing is now being developed, another 37 homes, and we're hearing about 107 homes tonight, so that's roughly 200 homes in one space. So I am hearing about a green space, but it sounds like this is being proposed as almost a separate neighborhood. And I just ask that you guys consider, I have questions about HOA, whether that would be considered one neighborhood, and I just have just a couple clarifying questions around that. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Nobody? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Balachandra might want to answer the question about traffic planning for the area.
As I mentioned earlier, the major thoroughfare plan takes into consideration the Florence Road, and this, the new interchange at I-24 And this 5-lane connector road will take some of the relief that folks now come into Manson Pike and then taking veterans to 840 to I-24. This will have this new 5-lane connector road to I-24, and the interchange that we are working with TDOT will relieve some of the congestion that is going to be created not only by this development but by and other open tracks along Florence Road.
Okay. Thank you, Rob.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions from the Planning Commission?
There was the question the gentleman had about the HOA.
Separate HOAs and neighborhoods. I don't know, Mr. Whitaker, that, I don't know that Mr. Moldchamp can speak for the other neighborhoods.
I think that would be a question for the developer, whether they have actually worked out a joint agreement or.
At this time, I don't know of any joint agreement between our neighborhood HOA and the HOA and Seaward Crossing. This development has been planned as a holistic development for itself, and there hasn't been any discussion in regards to crossing over uses between the two HOAs.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. Any other questions from the Planning Commission?
That's not going to be gated.
No,
If there are none, we're ready for a motion.
no, it's not.
Big friends.
I really do understand the concern that the neighborhood has out there as far as traffic concerns and the fact that you're concerned about losing your deer and your turkey and your view that you've got currently. I sometimes ask unrealistic prayers, I think, and because I enjoy the same view that you're referring to, I think, sometimes. And it's part of the growth of the city. It's part of having housing in place for people who are coming here as our community continues to grow. And truthfully, your neighborhood was in that same situation at one point. When your neighborhood was built, people came and they said, we hate to see that neighborhood being built there because it's going to move the deer and the turkey and those things. But I do think the developer has a good plan here. I think it is a reasonable request, and it's certainly something that hopefully will be a asset to that area, and we'll try and have the roadways prepared as best we can to handle the traffic. So I'll move for approval, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Item E, annexation plan of services and annexation petition for approximately 18.2 acres located along Manson Pike and Florence Road. John Floyd is applicant. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, sir. This is an easier map to deal with, so I'm very happy about that. We received a petition for annexation from John Floyd for 3 parcels located along the north side of Manson Pike and the west side of Florence Road. Property has a total area of just over 18 acres. It is contiguous with the existing city boundary on the southwest and is located within the city's urban growth boundary. We conducted a plan of services, which we've provided to you. It indicates that the city can provide services. I do want to point out that per the Murfreesboro Water Resources Department, the developer would be required to install a sewer pump station and force main as the existing Oakton pump station is currently at capacity. There's a companion rezoning request for this property, and it will be the next item on the agenda. Planning Commission will need to conduct a public hearing and make a recommendation to the City Council. Staff can answer any questions you may have.
Okay. This public hearing will be for the annexation and plan of services only. So I'll open the public hearing. Ask anybody come forward that'd like to speak. Seeing no one come forward, I'll close the public hearing.
I think we had a call-in comment.
That's my wife I just left. Any questions or comments by the Planning Commission? Now we're ready for a motion.
Chairman, I move to approve annexation plan of services.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Now the zoning application for approximately 18.2 acres located along Manson Pike and Florence Road to be zoned PRD, known as Blackman Village PRD, simultaneous with annexation. Old South Properties is the applicant. Mr. Anthony.
Thank you, sir. This rezoning request is for the same property as the previous item. Old South Properties has requested that the city rezone 18.17 acres located along Manson Pike and Florence Road to PRD, or Planned Residential District, simultaneous with the annexation. The proposed PRD would include a 79-unit single-family residential development that would give a density of about 4.35 dwelling units per acre. Surrounding zoning includes RS12 and RS15 on the southwest, and county RM or medium-density residential on all other sides. Murfreesboro 2035 shows a business park corridor about 1.5 miles long. We dealt with it with an earlier project this evening. This is along the north side of Manson Pike. The subject property is located at about the halfway mark of that corridor. The Commission and subsequently the City Council should consider whether that land use designation is appropriate for the area and should consider how residential development on the subject property may impact the long-term land use plan. In staff's view, and we discussed this at our workshop a couple of weeks ago, the West Park annexation and rezoning has altered how we think about this corridor and its future, and residential use may be a more realistic long-range goal for this area than business park in the future. The Planning Commission will need to conduct a public hearing and make a recommendation to the City Council. Rob Molchen from SEC is here and can discuss the request in more detail, and staff can answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Lamb, members of Planning Commission, Rob Olchin, SEC. I'm here tonight on behalf of Mr. John Floyd to present to you Blackman Village. As Don alluded to, the property is located between Florence Road and Manson Pike, just to the north of the intersection of Manson Pike and Florence Road. As you can see here in the aerial, the majority of this property, these properties is actually all is agricultural. There is a house that is on the Florence Road side of the property. We'll be maintaining that house as part of the overall development, and I'll talk a little bit about it here in the future. But for the rest of the property is mainly just open grassland with we have some really good, nice tree rows along the periphery, and we'll talk about our plans to keep those as well. Zoning-wise, as you can see in the zoning map, we're currently RM in the county, so medium-density residential. To the south is all primarily different zoning classifications within the city itself. Namely, you got some RS15, you got some commercial as well at the intersection of Florence and Manson. There you have the little gas station right now on the southwest corner of Florence and Manson on that side, along with Dollar General just down to the east of the intersection on that side. As Donald talked about, in regards to the 2035 land use plan, this property has been classified for business park. We think we've all evaluated this in regards to the uses that were outlined in the 2035 plan. We feel that we're deviation from this plan is in regards to the residential character and institution of the church next door, that this residential component would be a much better fit in regards to tying into the existing residential to the north and also to the south, and then also being a better use in regards to the church next door. Give you a couple of views of the property itself. This is looking in from Florence Road into the property. You can see it's very, very lush with some very good tree rows along the property. This is on the northern side of the entrance as you come in. This is looking from the church back into the site. You can see hay fields and overgrown vegetation along with all the trees. This is the existing home off of Florence that we'll be preserving with the development. It'll be a standalone feature, and I'll talk about that if we get to the plan here in a minute. This is one of the homes in Royal Court, which is the subdivision to the north we'll be backing up to. This is a view looking from the entrance area of the development, looking to the south on Florence back towards the Manson Pike intersection. And looking north along Florence there, as you can see, this is a 3-lane cross-section with curb and gutter and sidewalks. Florence Road is currently built out to its major thoroughfare for the 2025 plan on that side in regards to the 3-lane cross-section. This is a view from the roughly the entrance location to the subdivision itself onto Manson Pike. This is looking towards the west, back towards the overpass for Interstate 840. The plan itself requesting a planned zoning, planned residential district on this for 79 single-family detached homes. This is roughly about 4.35 dwelling units per acre. This will be sold as a horizontal property regime. I think we talked about during the work session on that side. So this will be fully, the exteriors of the homes, the grounds and such will be maintained by the HOA. The ownership for the individual homeowners will be inside the 4 walls themselves. So the overall grounds will be taken care of by the HOA association on that side. With this plan, we're providing over 10 acres of the overall plan to open space or green space. As you can see in the plan itself, there's a very expansive amount of green space represented on the master plan itself in regards to the amount of green. We also have a large TVA easement to the western side that we'll be reserving that as open space and utilizing it as our detention area, because the overall property falls from Florence Road back towards the northwest, where we've located our detention facility on that side over there. We'll also be incorporating public streets with sidewalks on both sides of the street, making it a very walkable community for the residents. The homes themselves, from a setback standpoint, we'll be looking at 35-foot front setbacks to the garage. So again, from the back of the sidewalk to the face of the garage, of 35 feet to incorporate the 4-car parking in the driveway. Looking at 10 feet between the actual structures. We don't have property lines being this being a horizontal regime, so we're maintaining our 10-foot separation between structures or pads on this development. Then also 20-foot rear setback on the back sides of the pads to any adjacent homes or the adjacent property lines. But as you can see in the plan itself, the amount of green space we incorporated to the south of the project is the Blackman Community Club. So there's a very good overgrown, I was going to say overgrown, a very good existing tree row along that southern property line between us and the residents and also the Blackman Community Club over there. So we're, with the amount of space we have between the property lines and the way the grades fall on this property, we're planning on in keeping all those tree rows as part of our development package to keep that character and also encapsulate this development and kind of give it some edge feature character in regards to a green edge, and also to maintain our neighborly relationship with the subdivision to the north and then also the neighbors to the south on that side. The homes themselves will be 1- to 2-story homes, looking at a minimum 1,300 square feet of living space per home, 2 bedrooms or more. All homes will have a 2-car front entry garage. And again, it's sold under a horizontal property regime. We'll have standard garage doors and windows as the garage elements to these homes. Talk about building materials themselves. On the front elevations will be a cement fiber board with a brick and/or stone base or water table element on the front for accentuation of the front of the homes. On the sides and rears will be all solely cementatious fiber board on that. Vinyl will only be permitted in the trim and soffit and dormer areas of the homes on all elevations. Amenities. We've got an overall amenity of the actual walking trail we're going to incorporate that'll wander through the open spaces behind the homes and allow for the residents to connect back to the public sidewalks on Manson Pike, but also back to the sidewalks within the neighborhood themselves. We're also looking at incorporating a dog park and a tot lot in the northern portion of the open space behind the homes. Access. We have 2 main access points, one off of Manson Pike and the other one off of Florence. We'll be incorporating a connectivity stub to the north for the adjacent property to the north, so he has connection back into Manson Pike and Florence Road whenever that property does develop out. We'll also be incorporating a stone or masonry type sign at the two entrances of development off of Manson Pike and Florence Road. Appreciate your time and consideration of this project. I'm here for questions now at public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Molchan. Any questions from the Planning Commissioner, Mr. Molchan? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
In that case, I'll open the public hearing. Ask anybody to come forward that'd like to speak.
Hello, my name is Sai Sanpansiri. My property is located right behind that project, 6 acres of land. And I wonder if the street going through from the Manson Pike going through to our property or not. I mean, I don't mind to leave it open, but I just want to know what the plan for that street. Thank you.
Okay. He may have to get with you after the meeting and go over that with you, sir. Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Hello. My name is Nate Spencer. I live at 2808 Queens Court. I'd like to just thank you all for being out here tonight and away from your families to take care of this. I had a couple concerns about this development. The first one, I didn't get the information on the original plan for this. I believe it was around 49 original homes, and then they had said they were had to come back to y'all and redesign it, and now it's approximately 80 homes in that area. I was curious why it went from 49, 50 homes all the way up to 79, 80. One of the other questions I had was from one of my neighbors who couldn't make it tonight. Was he had a proximity issue. I think it was one of the ones on the corner or the side lot on Florence Road side. The setbacks, we had questions about the setbacks. We said 20 foot on the rear. He was concerned that it was really close to the pre-existing property line that backed up to that. So I would like some clarification on that, if at all possible. The design, I realize, might be a little bit off the picture-wise, but it looks like it's right borderline on their property line. So just in that little cul-de-sac up in the L. So the other question I had had to do with the size of the homes and the approximate price they were asking. It seems like a lot of the homes that you guys were propositioning today were, futuristically going to sell for around $173 a square foot. I did a little research about what is currently offered, and it's around $123 to $128 a square foot. So my question is that I'm concerned that the property value of my property and those of my neighbors will be decreased if by a smaller home trying to oversell, then it would actually add value to our area and our property. So again, I would like some clarification on that. I had an example of the Heatherwood neighborhood that is a little bit north on Florence Road. Very similar houses, very similar size, and they're selling for around 125, 128 currently. So I realize it's hard to project in the future, but it seems like a huge jump to go from 125 to 173 a square foot for especially, for a smaller house, considering we're talking about all the other houses. I think we discussed they were 1,600 square foot, 1,500 square foot, and my understanding is the average in our community right now is around 1,800 square foot, so we're getting progressively smaller. Not to beat a drum again, but we have more concern about the traffic. With this type of design, you're actually creating a cut-through to skip the light at Florence Road. And so we had questions about the size of the roads going through there. We have, the answer to that was we have a 4-car driveway that you'll have access to. But if you can, think back to the pictures that we saw up here, most of those had 4-car driveways. Ours are still parked on the road. You can think of Berkshire. They have really big roads, and they still park on the road with, 4-car driveways. You can think of Cason Road. Same exact thing. They have the same size driveway, they park on the road. We can have the best intentions with the size of driveway to give them, but tendency is to park on the road. So if it's a cut through and people coming off of the Shelton Square, the Florence exit for Shelton Square, 750 or whatever, homes there are going to be cutting across trying to get to 840 or going out the back to Blackman. So there's going to be some added volume there that I would like some clarification on, and especially the road size and how going from 50 to 80 homes in the area, we can still squeeze 4-car driveways in there. The last thing I would like to say is just, you know, I think what my neighbors and I are concerned for was the amount of houses that were designed to be in there, and then the huge jump from 50 to 80 houses. And the other thing we were concerned about is the long-term value that will add or decrease from our neighborhoods. Like we said, the Blackman Community Center is right there. This is the heart of the Blackman community, and it's the smallest houses that we've talked about tonight. So I would like you to consider that as you're taking into consideration this plan, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Anybody else?
My name is Tammy Sandlin, and I represent the Blackman Community Club as the president for the last several years. And our community here is a very rural area, and we're being hit by all of these different developments all at once. And we're very concerned about the traffic on Florence, on Manson Pike, on Blackman Road. We value the privacy that we have at the Blackman Community Club, and we desperately want the builder and Old South or John Floyd or whoever to make sure that the tree lines stay as is and it's not jeopardize the privacy of our club. If you can just, you know, give some light on when the new exit off of 24 that will take off the traffic from Florence Road. Again, like the gentleman before me said, we're worried about people cutting through that subdivision to miss the light there at Florence Road to get over to Manson Pike. I just got off yesterday off of the exit at Veterans, and I counted 70 cars at 4 o'clock trying to get off of Veterans, the Veterans exit, turning left to go to Berkshire. 70 cars at 4 o'clock. And that's not even the time that people get off work. So we're just not really happy about all of this development all at once. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? Okay, there's nobody else coming forward. I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Molchamp, would you want to address Mr. Spencer's questions about the increase in the number of properties?
Yes, I would. The original request we came forward the first time around was for 68 homes. We've gone to 79, so it's only been an increase of 11 units from the original request on that side. As part of what we talked about in the original design to where we are now, we went back and the homes, we had talked about having some of the homes were at a certain width in regards to those being single-family lots. But as we went to a horizontal property regime, we modified that lot structure and the amount of lots we were looking at in regards to creating an equal mix between the two different lot sizes that we're looking at. Now we're going to a horizontal regime that we actually were able to squeeze in a few more on that side from the standpoint of we had a 41-foot wide lot originally and a 51-foot wide lot. We've now incorporated more of the 41s and equaled out the balance between the two types of homes in that. So originally it was 68 units. We've gone to 79 units, so an increase of 11 units on that side. I think he had a question in regards to the rear setbacks. The rear setbacks is 20 foot is our minimum rear setback, so the homes will be no closer than 20 feet from the back of the home to the property lines around the property itself, especially on that on the cul-de-sac area on that side. So you have at least 20 feet of separation between the property line and that. And like I said, we're based on the way the topography lays on the property, that from an early design standpoint, we believe that we'll be able to maintain all the tree rows as is today because all the drainage drains away from the property line, so we wouldn't technically need to be putting any drainage in there to divert rainwater or stormwater from our properties that may have come towards yours. We're actually internalizing all of our drainage to ourselves on that. So The size of the homes on that standpoint, we talked about being 1,300 square foot minimums on that. Price range in the homes, we're anticipating roughly at $225,000 for a minimum, up to $275,000 on those, on the homes themselves. So, it's definitely, this is in tune with the home prices that we've understand in the Royal Court area to the north in regards to the existing homes in the area outside. So these are very comparable in price at this point in time. I can't speak to property decline and decrease on that side, but I think if we're providing a price point that's in line with what's there today, there really technically shouldn't be any property decrease in value on that side. In regards to traffic, we'll be providing all the roads in the development are actually 40-foot right-of-ways, so you're looking at a 24-foot curb-to-curb situation in regards to the actual space for vehicles to move through. So that's incorporating 2 11-foot travel lanes going either way on the roadways themselves. So as part of the development, we've got that, I can't speak in regards to whether or not this will become a cut-through. I could see his point of review of this could be a cut-through, but I can't predict what human nature may or may not allow us to do in regards to trying to skirt a couple of minutes or a minute off our time in our day getting between point to point. But there is the opportunity and potential that somebody will start taking advantage of utilizing this as a cut-through. And it's no different than other intersections and types of things we have in the city in regards to opportunities to move traffic in a more favorable fashion between point to point. But ideally, this is not the idea what we want to produce with this design on that side. And back to the driveway side of things, we are incorporating the 4 parking spaces. That's what the staff and the city asked us to do in regards to providing what we feel is, what staff and the city sees as a common amount of parking spaces that are necessary for a single-family detached homes with 2 bedrooms or more on that side, and that's based on what the code requirements are in the zoning ordinance at this time. Regards to traffic volumes due to Shelton, Florence Road is currently built out to the 3-lane cross-section that's on the currently approved major thoroughfare plan. So it's designed to carry a pretty large volume of traffic in regards to this area in this region. I can't remember off the top of my head. Mr. Belishandra might be able to give me a little more insight of whether or not Florence Road has any opportunities for expansion in the future, but I don't think that's part of the upcoming major thoroughfare plan update on that side. I think in regards to the questions from the Blackman Community Club, the privacy feature, that was one of the things we understood, and that's why we wanted to take advantage of the opportunity with the regards to the amount of open space we're providing behind the homes. That the plan and goal is to maintain that tree row between ourselves and the Blackman Community Club, along with the Royal Court subdivision to the north. Based on the fact that all of our drainage is internalized, we shouldn't be anticipating any grading up to those tree lines. That we want to especially incorporate maintaining that tree line between ourselves and the Blackman Community Club as a good faith, good neighbor faith effort in regards to not only the Blackman Community Club but also to Queens Court and the Royal Court to the north on that side over there as well. In regards to traffic, in regards to the I-24 interchange, veterans traffic, in regards to those kind of things, those are traffic concerns. I think Mr. Belishandra may be able to shed some light on some of the forthcoming traffic improvements that might be happening in the area in regards to alleviating any traffic issues that are current and or in the future on that side.
Okay. Planning Commission have any questions for Mr. Molchan?
I think we got one from Mr. Belishandra.
Thank you, Mr. Molchan.
Chairman Lamb and members, I know we saw 3 projects now, Shelton Properties and then the 2 on Manson Pike. They have a build-out period. It's not all going to be built at the same time. Each of those projects, and I will let the engineers talk about their time frame. I think Shelton Property is anywhere between 8 to 10 years. These projects are anywhere between 3 to 5 years. I'm guessing. If I'm wrong, you can correct me. But during that time, with the update of the major thoroughfare plan, we are hoping that some of the infrastructure will be in place, possibly an interchange that we talked about with an east-west 5-lane connector. Also, with the West Park project and Shelton, there will be turn lane improvements and improvements on Blackman Road. is going to be 5-lane with a possible signal at Blackman Road and Manson Pike. So there are some elements that will come as these developments happen. I think, with the growth and the time frame of this build out, we are hoping that some of these improvements will be in place.
Okay. You have another question?
Is there a particular number of homes that are required where we can put in a turning lane?
In fact, for the Shelton property, the turn lanes are being installed at upfront when the first phase of the project is constructed, because it will be needed so that there will be complements of left turn lanes, so that one left turner is not holding the through traffic on Blackman Road. Right turners will not slow down the through traffic. So the same goes with all this, the other two projects. And also what we saw on these monitors are a conceptual layout of the subdivision. When we look at the subdivision plats, some of the residents talked about cut-through traffic. We can make some changes so that it's not a straight shot. They may have to come to a T intersection. We want the connectivity from Florence Road to the Shelton property and also to Manson Pike, but we don't want to make that a straight shot. So that is part and function of when we look at the subdivision layout and construction plans.
Any other questions?
Well, just so I'm clear, so what you're saying is, as part of these planned developments that we've seen, there could be turn lanes at site plan, but they're not necessary. So is the right-of-way there to be able to have the turn lanes as part of these planned developments as we see today?
Yes, when these properties are platted, we will request for dedication of right-of-way for right turn lanes if we feel that that is warranted. Left turns are already there because Florence is a 3-lane roadway with center turn lane, and so is Manson Pike with center turn lane. So we are talking about right turn lane improvements and the cross sections of the intersections. These roadways may be just 2-lane with internal, but when they connect up with Manson Pike and Florence, there will be complements of left turn through lanes and right turn lanes if needed.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Balachandra. There's no other questions from the Planning Commission. We're ready for a motion.
I just wanted to ask, do we know the answer to the first man that spoke about his 1-acre property? I don't know if he's part of one of these connections. As long as we know who to talk to or he knows who to speak to.
I think he needs to give Mr. Molchan after.
So he understands. I just don't want us to forget about that.
Mr. Molchan said he'd get with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that a motion, Ms. Jones?
She has not made a motion. Would you like to make a motion?
If there are no other questions, I would make a motion to approve, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item G is an annexation plan of services and annexation petition for approximately 18 acres located along Twin Oak Drive. Mitchel Bowman is the applicant. Mr. Anthony.
Thank you, sir. Staff has received a petition for annexation from Mitchel Bowman for 2 parcels located along the east side of Twin Oak Drive. This is north of Halls Hill Pike. The property has a total area of just under 18 acres. It is contiguous with the existing city boundary on the west and is located within the city's urban growth boundary. The plan of services, which we've included in your packet, does have one important caveat, and that is that the applicant is going to need to obtain a number of easements from neighboring property owners in order to extend sewer to this site. And at this time, those easements have not been secured. Because we went ahead and advertised a public hearing, not knowing how the plan of services would go, we would ask that you go ahead and conduct the public hearing tonight, but not take action on this request, and instead defer until such time that those easements have been secured. There's a companion rezoning request for this property, and it will be the next item on the agenda. Staff can answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Any questions on the annexation plan of services?
Well, do we know how they're going to get access to the services? Which way?
Basically, that is what since we had already advertised the public hearing, that's the reason we're going to have to follow through, but we want them to come back with those. There's no assurance that they can actually obtain those. That's why we're wanting you not to take action tonight until they come back and prove to us that they can get those. Naturally, it's up to them to obtain those easements from the adjacent property owners. Normally, we would have, if this hadn't been already advertised, the applicant would have withdrawn his application, but since it was, it's unfair to the public to, if they show up, to not be able to speak at the public hearing since it was advertised.
Okay.
And they had originally hoped they could have those easements before this, but unfortunately they don't.
Okay, well, if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing for this matter. Ask anybody to come forward that'd like to speak. Nobody? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. So you want a deferral on this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. The tag-along public hearing is a zoning application for approximately 18 acres located along Twin Oak Drive to be zoned RS6 simultaneous with annexation. Rutherford County Habitat for Humanity is the applicant. Mr. Anthony.
Thank you, sir. This rezoning request is for the same property as the previous item. Our Rutherford County Habitat for Humanity has requested that the city rezone approximately 17.96 acres located along Twin Oak Drive to R6 simultaneous with annexation. R6 zoning on this property would equate to a maximum gross density of 7.26 dwelling units per acre, although my understanding from talking with the applicant is their plan is for significantly less than that. Adjacent zoning includes RSA, which is the former RZ district on the west, and county RM or medium density residential on all other sides. Murfreesboro 2035 classifies this property as undeveloped, meaning that when the 2035 plan was formulated, it was not anticipated that any development would occur here within the next 20 years. Of course, immediately upon adopting the plan, we get a request for rezoning. So the commission and city council should consider whether that land use designation continues to be appropriate for this area and should consider how residential development on the subject property may impact the long-range plan. As with the annexation request, due to the lack of easements for the sewer extension, we would ask that you hold the public hearing but defer voting on this matter until the easements are secured. Mark Lee with SEC is here, I think, along with some representatives from Habitat for Humanity, and can talk a little more about this request and about what the ultimate goal is with this rezoning, and staff can answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Mr. Lee?
It's going to be that very last icon down there on the bottom, Mark. Yeah, that one.
There we go. Thank you, Chairman Lamb, members of the commission. I'm Mark Lee with Site Engineering Consultants. We are the design engineers for this project, and the owner-developer will be Habitat for Humanity, the local affiliate. And we have with us tonight the director of the local affiliate, Ms. Terry Schultz, and also the superintendent, Mr. Roy Saylor. And also, we have with us Old South, who is helping lead Habitat through the development process. And we appreciate Mr. John Floyd and Mr. Dan Bobo for assisting Habitat. As you may know, Habitat is a faith-based nonprofit organization which creates partnerships with families to build affordable homes, stronger communities, and life-changing opportunities for the hardworking families in Rutherford County. The property is located 1/4 mile north of Halls Hill Pike on Twin Oaks Drive. It's currently covered with approximately 2/3 low-growth vegetation and 1/3 evergreen trees. There's also a lot of surface rock, as you would expect, being about a half a mile from the Hoover Rock Quarry. There are no structures on the property, and the property has a gentle slope of about 2% from the back towards the front on Twin Oaks Drive. We, as you can see from the drawing before you, we proposed 2 access points on Twin Oaks Drive, and we propose a stormwater management pond at the southwest corner, which is a low point of the property. We've also proposed landscaping around a monument sign for the subdivision, and also along a buffer along Twin Oaks Drive as well for those houses that front that street. There are sidewalks proposed on both sides of all streets. Habitat plans on developing about 20 lots per phase. Each phase should provide about 2 years of house construction at the present rate of 8 to 10 houses per year. And we anticipate needing an HOA to maintain landscaping and a stormwater management pond. There will be approximately 75 lots with sizes very close to those in the neighboring Eastwood subdivision. When we initially looked at this property, we noted a 20-foot sanitary sewer easement from Eastwood subdivision to Twin Oaks Drive and anticipated using that. And during the process, Murfreesboro Water Resources Department told us that that would not be allowed to be used because it's not their standard 30 feet that they require now. It was 20 feet when that was created. So we are searching for an alternate route, and we've located 3 routes. So we're just looking at the one that would be most beneficial for the city and for Habitat. Responding to staff comments, Legacy Point will incorporate several of the Murfreesboro 2035 Comprehensive Plan concerns. Our local Habitat affiliate traditionally redevelops existing lots as they become available. The number of lots available through the year is not always sufficient and leaves qualified homeowners waiting longer for affordable housing or forced into a less desirable location. This subdivision will provide about 8 years of lot inventory solely used for Habitat's affordable housing. Further meeting the goals of the 2035 Comprehensive Plan, Legacy Point will provide stable, safe homes with an affordable mortgage in a livable, attractive neighborhood. This project will provide an opportunity for families to purchase high-quality, affordable homes that are Energy Star certified. And finally, Legacy Point will have interconnected streets and sidewalks on each side of the roads, allowing walkability throughout the neighborhood. We concur with Mr. Anthony's request for a deferral. We will return after the required easements are acquired to finalize annexation and rezoning. And we thank you for your time, and I'll be glad to answer any questions, or staff as well, or Habitat staff as well.
Any questions from the Planning Commission for Mr. Lee? Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman Lamb.
For your time. I'll open the public hearing. Ask anybody to come forward that would like to speak. Seeing nobody come forward, I'll close the public hearing. We need a motion for deferral.
I'll move to defer.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. That completes the public hearing portion of our agenda. Move on to staff reports and other business. One item under that, South Point Lot 9, site plan for a 4,800 square foot building to be used for automotive repair on 1.24 acres zoned light industrial along Business Campus Drive. George Patterson is the developer. Mr. Blomley.
Thank you, Chairman Lamb. You'll recall that the Planning Commission at its last day meeting reviewed the site plan on Business Campus Drive, which is in the South Point Business Subdivision. There were a couple of odd easements that were encumbering the property. One was a 60-foot road usage easement, and the other was a 15-foot special interest access easement. And one of the conditions of approval that staff recommended was that the applicants show evidence that they had obtained the release of both of these easements prior to obtaining a permit. Well, after the meeting, planning and legal staffs discussed with the applicant one of those easements the city could have a potential interest in, which is the 60-foot road usage easement. And looking back at the deed records in 1972, that road usage easement was recorded for the future dedication of public right-of-way, and so that was set up with some type of expectation that that would be dedicated to the city at some point. It appears that that will never happen. The road that might have been envisioned there in 1972 will now never happen because there are lots that have been platted in the South Point Business Campus subdivision on top of this road usage easement. So the city would be in favor of abandoning its interest in the easement, and we anticipate bringing back at our next day meeting to schedule a public hearing a mandatory referral request for this easement to be abandoned, and we'll treat it just as if it had been dedicated as right-of-way, and we'll hold a public hearing on it so that if anybody feels that they have reason to keep it as a public right-of-way, they'll have an opportunity to speak. But with regard to the 15-foot special interest access easement, that 15-foot special interest access easement appears to have gone to a portion of Mr. Gerald Pettigo's property that he's developing at the end of South Point Way right now, or South Point Court. Appears that decades ago there may have been a Humble oil sign on that property, but there's no sign on the property now. I was out there the other day, and it's vacant property, and so we're unsure if that special interest access easement is needed at this point, and who would even be the holder of that easement. At any rate, it appears that the city has no interest in that special interest access easement. It's an easement that is held by private parties, while the city feels that the 60-foot road usage easement we have that we are somewhat a party to, and we feel that we can participate in the abandonment of that easement. The 15-foot special interest access easement is between two private parties, and if a party wished to enforce that, if they felt that this plan was in violation of that 15-foot special interest access easement, then it would be up to that private party to seek enforcement. So we're looking to have the Planning Commission modify that condition of approval that sought the release of both of those easements before permit, and modify that to state that prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall obtain a release of the 60-foot road usage easement only from the city, and not the 15-foot special interest access easement, because the city is not a party to that 15-foot easement. I'll be happy to answer any questions. One thing of note, all other conditions of approval from our last day meeting pertaining to this site plan would still apply. This would be the only condition of approval that would be changing if you concur with staff.
Okay. Any questions for the staff? I know. Mr. Halliburton, can you repeat everything you just said?
No.
I don't know that I could.
I hope it wasn't just me. Any questions for Mr. Blomley?
It was fun to look through the deeds, as you can imagine.
I'm sure it was. There's no questions.
Okay, so all the 15-foot easement now that we're not dealing with, or we're going to leave alone, isn't a problem on the site plan.
We're going to let whoever owns that easement, the easement rights, enforce it, and because we don't feel that we're a party to it.
Ready for a motion?
So moved.
What he said.
Subject to all staff comments.
Well, that's a motion. I won't ask you to repeat those. Motion's made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. That completes the staff reports and other business. Mr. Whitaker, do you have something?
I do. Mr. Lewis typically handles this, but I notice he is not with us, so I will. He's handed out a report card on our yearly training. If you would look at that, if you need to get a couple of hours before the end of the year, please do so. This is required. Our education is required, Public Chapter 862, and I just happened to look down and notice that he's on double secret probation himself. So if everybody could get that done before the end of the year, I would appreciate it. If you have any questions, we do have a couple other classes. The legal department, they can come in for the teleconferences to get those.
Okay. And we have a meeting a week from today, right?
Yes, sir. Special Planning Commission meeting with public hearing for the 2040 Major Transportation
Yes.
Plan.
And I thought you were talking about the training that in the legal department.
I am not aware of the schedule. I know there will be some more
I think there's two more that you attend if you need to get it. But yes, we do have a special call meeting for the 2040 plan.
Before I adjourn the meeting, I just want to make one comment. Last December, we lost a good friend, a longtime Planning Commission member, and City Councilman and Vice Mayor Doug Young. I just wanted to say today would have been his 69th birthday.
All right.
We all miss him.
Chairman, one other thing, we have kicked off the city census, and people will be receiving cards in the mail. We've started, the first mailer went out yesterday. The second batch will be going out probably today. So if you get one of those cards, please fill it out, send it in. We're hoping that at the end of this cycle, when we recount, we're hoping about $2 million, maybe plus, of our income from the state, if we can get the numbers up that we think we have. So please fill that out. It's very important. Send that back in so you can be counted. You'll see some signs going out about the census, and if you have any questions, give us a call at the planning department. If you don't fill that out, the fire department will be coming knocking on your door to check on you, so please send it in. And you can do it online this year as well. So,
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. If there's no further business, we stand adjourned.